I don't know about you, but I'd be pretty hungry after 40 days. As we enter Lent, in many ways we come to the culmination of what we began in Christmas. The Christmas season, we celebrate the incarnation of God, of our Creator becoming creature, of the Son of God coming and taking on human flesh and living a fully human life and walking among us. And so in the Lenten season, as we journey with Jesus in the unfolding of his profoundly human existence, we see how closely his life intertwines with ours. But the beauty that begins to unfold for us, besides knowing that our God truly understands our lives, is that he begins in the course of these next several weeks to lead us to his ultimate purpose, which was to give of his life for the salvation of the world and lead us to the resurrection, to conquer for all death and suffering and sin. And so in these coming weeks, we come to see the culmination of that profound dialogue between Creator and creation. From God entering our midst and living as one of us to inviting us back to himself. And today, we see Jesus struggling with temptation. Now, how many of us made some sort of Lenten resolution just 3 days ago and have already been like, oh gosh. After the last Ash Wednesday Mass, there was some friends of mine, they were here, and they said, oh, Father, you should come out to dinner with us. And I said, great, where are we going? They said, Wingstop. And I said, it's Ash Wednesday. Do they have like fish nuggets? What are we going to go eat at Wingstop? And they're like, oh my gosh, we forgot. How often do we enter into those spaces this time of year where we try to do something very intentionally and then it seems like the whole world is against that part of ourselves? We think, oh, I'm going to take on this extra practice and, I'm going to spend 10 more minutes a day in prayer, or I'm not going to drink, or I'm not going to eat chocolate, or I'm going to give up meat for all of Lent, or whatever it is. We're thinking of doing something simple, basic, nothing too challenging, and yet that time we had always set aside for that extra prayer just never seems to appear. Or everywhere we go, there's beautiful truffles to eat. Those are the more superficial things, but there's deeper, more profound things that we try to engage in the season too, and they pull on us. It seems like wherever we shine our own light, something might be there to try to trip us up. But we see the very same thing in Jesus' own journey. And what his continual solution is in responding to the temptations that come his way have nothing to do with his own power and control. See, so often when we approach the spiritual life, we think we just have to white knuckle through it. And we're like, God, don't worry, I'm going to get there soon, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to do over here. And then once I get through this big fast or big project or remarkable act of charity, then I'm going to come back and you're going to see I'm worthy of things. But that's not how Jesus does it. Jesus is led into the desert by the Spirit, where there is absolutely nothing around. Sometimes that can be the scariest space of all, where all the things that pull and pry upon us surface the most. And then the devil comes to tempt him. And time again, he offers him to say, Jesus, if you just but take control of this situation and assert your will, you'll get what you want. Yeah, you're starving, you're so hungry, you haven't eaten for 40 days. You have the power to make food. You can do it. You've been out here, you've been isolated, you've felt like you have no purpose, no direction, you're completely disconnected. Well, you can have all the kingdoms of the world. if you but simply bow before me? Oh, well, you're not sure, maybe, if God really loves you? Well, let's test that. Throw yourself from this parapet and see if his angels will save you. In each one of those instances, the devil is trying to get Jesus to trust more in his own human will than in the power and grace of God. And isn't that the very same thing that we struggle with in our temptations, be them the simple things of eating chocolate or those really deep demons that chase us for all of life? We stand there and we say, I don't know what life looks like on the other side of this if I relinquish control, but I do know the comfort if I hold on. We sit there, and it could be anything from the simple temptations of life, from this hunger, I don't know if I can stretch it out that much longer, I'm just going to grab that thing that's in front of me. Or the despair and the anxiety is getting too much, I'm just going to reach for this bottle. The loneliness and the isolation is kind of overwhelming, so let me just go to this website. Whatever those things are, we know the outcomes when we take control. The challenge is learning what the outcome is if we are willing to give trust enough in God that he will lead us to the other side. But the same is true in the deeper areas of our lives. Even things that cause us pain and conflict. We know what things look like if we hold on to our resentments and our grudges, our hurts. We don't always know what it looks like if we take the risk in seeing what happens when we let go. We know what life looks like when we hold on to the things that we wish were true about ourselves and try to force ourselves to conform to some image that doesn't seem authentic. But we don't know what it looks like to just be ourselves. We know what things should be if we hold on and present a perfect appearance to the world and to our families. But the chaos of letting go enough to admit that we're broken and vulnerable and imperfect, those are terrifying spaces. But those are precisely the spaces that Christ himself walked into in the midst of his own humanity. Knowing all the same temptations and uncertainties and insecurities that we carry, and yet the one difference being that leap of trust in his Father. To say, I need not claim control and grab a hold of this moment, but that somehow God will carry me to the other side. So this Lenten journey really is the culmination of what we saw that began with original sin. Adam and Eve's fall wasn't so much one of disobedience, it was one of a lack of trust. That was what confronted them. They were disobedient, that is true, but it was because they trusted more in their own will and in the voice of the serpent than what God himself had told them. And so in Lent, as Christ journeys with us, he's inviting us to journey with our own humanity, with our own uncertainties, with our own longings and temptations and brokenness and sinfulness, but to say, it's not your job to fix it. It's not your job to control it. It's not your job to make it right. It's your job to hand it over to God each and every moment and allow him to lead you, to show you the depth of what his love and mercy truly means. if we can trust for a moment that He is already there. If that's the case, then we need not turn things into food. We need not possess all power in the world. We need not test the limits of our God. Because in our faith, even things unseen we know are there. In our own uncertainties and struggles, we know that we are being carried and being held. So in this Lenten season, may we take that risk to trust.